Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Liv, or Olivia if you are new here, and today we are going to be talking all about the books that I want to read in the month of October. As most of you know, October is the ultimate cozy or spooky reading month of the year. It does not get much better than October, so obviously my TBR is pretty lengthy, and I tried to pick the spookiest books or the ones that fit kind of the Halloween vibe the most, but I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty hard to narrow it down. So I have quite a variety. I am pretty much in a huge fantasy mood right now, but obviously I'm hoping to incorporate some of my spookiest reads that I own, so I'm very excited about this TBR. I hope you guys get some recommendations. I'm so excited to just dive right into these books, so let's go ahead and do just that. The first book I'm planning to read in the month of October is for my book club called the Tea Time Society, and I could not really choose what voting choices I wanted. A lot of my patrons, like me, don't read full-out horror, and so one of the options was The Undertaking of Hart and Mercy. This one just comes across as a little bit more cozy, romantic fantasy. I've been wanting to read this for forever, honestly, since it came out. It just really caught my attention with the cover and the spooky vibes. It also kind of reminds me of The Dead Romantics, just having like those spooky vibes in a romance I feel like you don't find very often. And I also saw that the author announced the second book coming out. I didn't even realize this was going to be a series. I think the second book is coming out next year. Needless to say, this is the year I finally am going to get to this one, and I'm so glad my patrons chose it. The only thing I know about this one is it's an enemies to lovers story, and there are anonymous letters written back and forth, which I love letters in romance books, so I think that's gonna add a fun twist. I literally just went back and read the back or the synopsis of this, and it does not give me spooky vibes like at all, so I am very much wondering how the spooky vibes are gonna come into play. It just says true love might be the death of them, but I think this might have fantasy elements in this. It could be magical realism. As you can tell, I'm trying to describe to you what this book is about, but I really have no idea. All I know is I love the cover, we're getting spooky vibes, and we've got letters, so sign me up. And if you've never checked out my Patreon before, I do offer a monthly book club where you can be in the comments and discuss with me as I'm live, which is one of my favorite parts about my Patreon. So if you've never checked it out before, I highly recommend. I usually have all different genres of books. You get 3 choices each month to vote on. This one definitely surprised me, but I'm not mad about it. So if you've never checked it out before, I hope you'll read with us. The next thing I have going on over on Patreon is a fall readathon. I've always wanted to create my own fall readathon, and this year I was like, it is the year. I want to create some fun graphics and just go all out with it. So this is called the Trick or Read Readathon. I created a map where you have to get the 2 trick-or-treaters to the haunted house, and along the way there are different stops with different reading prompts. I also created a bingo board. We're having a cozy pajama night where we're just going to do reading sprints and play games. I'm gonna have some friends on there. We also have a spooky movie night, but also for this readathon I wanted to think of a buddy read that would just be really easy to get through but really fun, that fits the spooky season, because I just love discussing books with people, and I decided to choose My Roommate is a Vampire. This one has been on my radar for quite some time now, but this also fulfills one of the reading prompts, so I feel like it's kind of a win-win situation. This one is a little bit on the spicier spectrum, so in case that's not your cup of tea, I totally understand. But what I love about this book is our main character, the girl, is an aspiring artist. She doesn't have a lot of money, so she sees this ad from this guy who is offering a room or an apartment for $200 a month. I mean, how can you not go for that? So she decides to move in there, and she discovers that he's a vampire. And what I've heard from this is the vampire kind of talks like he's from a Regency era. He's like a very good, nice gentleman, but I have heard that the vampire is more of a cinnamon roll versus like a really spooky vampire. He's kind of stuck back in time, which I think sounds really fun. I think it'll be a very interesting dynamic between these two. So if you're looking for a fun fall readathon, definitely check out my Patreon. We are going to be starting October 20th on a Friday and going through the 28th 26th, which is a Thursday. You guys do not want to miss it. It's going to be the best time. We're going to have multiple nights of sprints and just so many other fun, spooky, fun activities, all the cozy vibes. So if that sounds appealing to you, I hope you will join me. Now we are just going to dive into all the random other books that I want to get read in the month of October. I really was hoping to weekly vlog, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen with everything else that always comes up or everything else that happens in the month of October. But I do have some good witchy books that I would love to get to. This book was literally everywhere last year, and I actually started it. I read like 20 to 50 pages and I was loving it. I don't know why I didn't finish it. I should have just read it in November because witchy books are great for any season, but for some reason I didn't finish it. So this year I am determined to finally read this one. If I am just feeling like a cozy fantasy vibe or something that just makes my heart really warm, I'm definitely going to be picking this one up. I think this is going to be a really fun dynamic. I've heard the romance is great and I love a good found family trope, so I know this is going to be right up my alley if I could finally just finish it. I also have Hex Education by Maureen Kilmer. I read Suburban Hell last year and absolutely loved it. It was like one of my favorites I read during spooky season, and this one is witchy, which makes me even more excited. This one is about three witches who have known each other for forever. They went through college together, but supposedly they set a dorm on fire. And then we fast forward in the present day, and I don't know if people are just looking for them or they are found out that they're witches. I don't know what happens, but she does tend to include horror elements in her stories, which I think is very intriguing. It's not too over the top, but this one talks about a cat named Cate Purry. So I kind of have to read this one as a cat person. Next, I have The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher, which I love this author. I'm on a mission to read all of their books. This one I think I've seen the most mixed reviews for, which intrigues me even more. I do know that this is like your classic haunted house story where we have our main character, her grandmother dies, and her father asks her to help clean up her grandmother's house. And apparently she was a huge hoarder. Some crazy things start happening. I also think it's really interesting that our main character's name is Mouse. So leave it up to T. Kingfisher to create some type of like unique character. I feel like that is something that they're very good at. This also says righteous folkloric horror, which I love. I love some good folklore in a horror story. This is the top one from T. Kingfisher I'm hoping to get to. And then I have none other than Rachel Harrison. I am on a mission to also read all of her books, and I believe these are the only two that I have left to read aside from a couple novellas that she's written. This one is a werewolf story, and this one I think is more cultish. This one literally just came out and I cannot decide which one would be better. I feel like this one makes more sense as like a werewolf story to read in October, and maybe I'll read this one in November. Either way, maybe I'll read both, but I love her so much. She includes just a sprinkle of horror to where it's not too much for me to handle, but also she also has great morals and messages. Her stories are basically chick lit with horror, so if you've never read anything by her, definitely start with Cackle. I feel like that's her least horrific book, but these two I've heard pretty mixed things about, so I'm a little bit skeptical, I'm a little bit scared, but we are just gonna do this. So maybe I'll do another reading vlog of finally finishing up her books. Next, we're gonna talk about the 5 top fantasy on my October TBR. These are all very spooky vibe books, or ones that you guys are probably sick of hearing me talk about, honestly. I've put a couple of these on multiple TBRs and I still haven't read them, and I must read them before the year's up. So I'm sorry, but these are gonna be on each TBR until I read them. The first one being House of Roots and Ruin by Erin A. Craig. This is the second book to House of Salt and Sorrow, which I absolutely love. I've been waiting so long for this book. This one follows one of the 12 sisters from the previous book, and I've heard this one is very, very spooky. But I've heard this one is actually pretty gory. I don't know what that means. I just know it's a pretty chunky book, so we'll see how long it takes me to get through. But I feel like this is just gonna be the perfect book to read in the month of October. I also have one of the most popular romantasy books right now called Belladonna. You've probably heard of her, by Addalyn Grace. Yes, I still have not read this. I've heard it's like a gothic romantic fantasy that's kind of like a retelling of The Secret Garden. There's also vibes of Addie LaRue apparently, and I love all of those things. I just know I'm gonna give this one at least 4 or 4.5 stars. I'm hoping for a 5-star. Foxglove just came out and I just have this feeling that I'm gonna go out and buy it immediately after finishing this one. I think she falls in love with Death himself, which sounds so creepy. So obviously I need to get to this one in the month of October. The next book I have is a vampire story called The Scarlet Veil by Shelby Mahurin. I got this immediately the day it came out. I love Shelby Mahurin. Unfortunately, I have not read the last book in her other trilogy, Gods and Monsters, and I kind of just want to skip to this one, to be honest. There was something that happened in Blood and Honey that I did not love, so I just did not continue the series. But I'm not going to read the synopsis of this one to you either, because apparently it spoils what happens in the third book, Gods and Monsters. And of course, I accidentally read the synopsis of this one and spoiled myself. So just FYI, if you are still making it through that other trilogy and you do not want to know what happens at all, definitely don't recommend reading the synopsis, but that's okay. All I needed to know is that this is a vampire story. I think it's the start to a new series, and this book is just absolutely stunning. There are like these rose end pages. Oh, I'm just obsessed with this. It's so pretty. And the front cover has this gorgeous rose gold foil. It's not gold, but it's rose gold, and it's just so stunning. This is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. Go get yourself one. I am just so here for another Shelby story. I also have another super popular fantasy here that you have probably seen a million times. It recently got a cover rebrand or redesign called Masters of Death by Olivie Blake. I have to read this month, and I'm gonna read the synopsis because that will probably tell you why. Viola Merrick is a struggling real estate agent and a vampire, but her biggest problem currently is that the house she needs to sell is haunted. The ghost haunting the house has been murdered, and until he can solve the mystery of how he died, he refuses to move on. This book is also another beautiful one with the end pages. We love that, but obviously this is packed full of so many ghosty things. I just need this book in my life. This is a top priority read for me in the month of October. I have no choice. So if you've read this one and you loved it, please let me know. I know, you guys are so sick and tired of seeing this book, but this is the only month I feel like I have to read this book because it looks so spooky. That's Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson. I have no other reason that I want to read this book other than it's spooky, and I love Margaret Rogerson. I think I've read all of her other books almost at this point, and each time has been 4 or 5 stars for me. Her writing is just so easy and so bingeable. I love the worlds she creates. Her characters are so amazing, and the main character in this one, I believe, has the responsibility to send souls on to the next life after they pass away. So other than that, I know nothing. It's a standalone, so I don't have a huge commitment to reading a giant series, which is also something I love about this author. I'm hoping and praying this is finally the year I can read this one. The next couple books are cozy mysteries. You guys know I cannot escape a cozy, cool month without fitting in a couple cozy mysteries. The first one I have is Murder at the Pumpkin Pageant. Yes, I started this in the month of September. I only got 50 pages in, but I knew immediately I had to save it for October. If you are looking for Gilmore Girls vibes and a book that immediately talks about apple cider donuts and pumpkin carving, I mean, the main character's boyfriend's name is even Rory, so I have a feeling this author definitely has to be a Gilmore Girls fan. Our main character is a lighthouse keeper, and supposedly it's known for having hauntings or ghostly things happening. So there's this podcast that finds out about it, wants to come into town, and actually there's a body found dead at the lighthouse. So of course we're gonna walk through all of the suspects with our main character. She takes it upon herself because it's her lighthouse to solve the mystery, and this is just full of coastal Halloween vibes, and I know it's gonna be perfect to read right around Halloween. Next, I have a brand new cozy mystery by Ellie Alexander called Catch Me If You Candy. Halloween has arrived in picturesque Ashland, Oregon, and all of the ghouls and goblins have descended on Main Street for the annual parade. Apparently at this parade, there's a dragon slumped in front of the bake shop. So of course we go through the whole process of eliminating suspects. I've actually actually never read anything by this author before. It's part of the Meet Your Baker series, but this is just perfect for October. Are you kidding me? I have to read this. It's the perfect orangey color. There's all these cute little treats in the bake shop, and I just love it so much already. I mean, how can you get any more autumnal than a cozy fall festival? I have another brand new cozy that recently came out called a Cat Cafe Mystery. This one is called 9 Lives and Alibis. It's October in Daybreak Harbor, which means everything Halloween. The town is going all out for the holiday, hoping to one-up the festivities in neighboring Salem, Massachusetts, and Maddie James is delighted to be part of the planning for the annual happenings. But trouble brews when Maddie's youngest sister Sam books a famous medium to come to town for the celebrations and stay in the local haunted inn along with his equally famous black cat. The town busybody books a secret reading with Belfer and doesn't want anyone to know why. Maddie's best friend Becky is hell-bent on getting Belfer to help her solve 2 40-year-old mysteries, a murder and a missing maid. And the sidekick has a stalker who's followed him here to the island and demanding he connect with her dead husband. When Belfer is pushed off the cliffs behind the inn to his death and his beloved cat goes missing, it throws the whole town into a frenzy, and Maddie and her family find themselves in the middle of a murder mystery straight out of a Halloween movie. Obviously, this one is perfect for Halloween week. I feel like Halloween week I'm just gonna be reading only cozy mysteries, but this one looks super cute. I love cats, I love cafes, and I love good mysteries, so I feel like this is right up my alley. One of the several spooky graphic novels I'd love to get to this month is Wait Till Helen Comes. Apparently this is like a middle grade book, a classic middle grade spooky book that everyone has read but me, I feel like. I mean, having a graveyard in your backyard sounds absolutely terrifying. So I think this is gonna be a great one for like a spooky 24-hour readathon. I am just so excited to get to this. Last but definitely not least, I have quite a few spooky middle grade that I would love to read in the month of October. I think what really set me off for wanting to read these is I recently read Whispering Pines. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. It was the perfect amount of spooks for me because again, I don't love super gory horror, so I feel like spooky middle grade could be right up my alley. So that being said, I would love to do like a week or 2 long video where I just read spooky middle grade because it sounds like a really fun time to me, and of course middle grade you can fly through way faster than an adult book. But on the agenda are 2 super popular authors that I've read from before but not recently. The first one is Lindsay Curry. I think I have 2 of her other books besides these, but I have The Girl in White, Scritch Scratch, and The Peculiar Incident on Shady Street. This one I did start reading last year and I don't know why I didn't finish it. I was loving it. It's the perfect spooky coastal vibe. I don't remember much about what it's about, but I just remember actually getting chills. Like, Lindsay really does have an amazing way with words for something that's supposed to be written for a child and it's actually spooking me out. Yeah, you've done your job right. I also have Scritch Scratch, which is about a girl whose father actually gives spooky ghost tours downtown Chicago. And me being from Chicago, I know I'm definitely gonna be spooked out because I can definitely feel and picture myself walking downtown Chicago during the night and it's already giving me the creeps. So this one is gonna be amazing. I just know it. This one is also set in Chicago, but it's more of a haunted house story, which I love. So I have no doubt that I'm also gonna be really into this one. So these are definitely top priority for me. If I read any other spooky middle grade, I'm definitely gonna be picking up Lindsay Curry. I also have Catherine Arden. We have Small Spaces and we have Dead Voices. I definitely must get to Small Spaces because this one I think has to do with a bus full of children that somehow the bus breaks down. I think there has something to do with like a spooky forest and a really scary scarecrow from the looks of it. So I've heard it's pretty creepy, so we shall see. But this one I think takes place in the winter, so I feel like this could be a good November or December book. So I will definitely be picking the first one up if I get the chance and probably buying the rest of the series because I just have a feeling I'm really gonna love this one. I loved The Bear and the Nightingale. She has such amazing descriptive writing, so I have no doubt this is going to be really spooky. I also have Mari and the Night Brothers, which is another super popular middle grade book that I have not read yet. I think I got this at my local thrift store for really cheap, so I took it as a sign that I need to read it this year. I think our main character's brother goes missing in this one, but she is an actual ghost hunter, so this one's a little bit more supernatural. Next, I have a newer book that I think came out this summer called The Bellwoods Game, and the eyes up here look so creepy, but this also looks like the perfect fall read just from the cover. Everyone knows Fall Hollow is haunted. It has been ever since Abigail Snook went into the woods many years ago, never to be seen again. Since then, it's tradition for the 6th graders at Beckett Elementary to play the Bellwoods Game, in which 3 kids are chosen to go into the woods on Halloween night. Whoever rings the bell there wins the game and saves the town for another year. But if Abigail's ghost captures all the players first, the spirit is let loose to wreak havoc on Fall Hollow. That sounds so creepy. I also love that there's like a game competition element, so there's a lot of suspense there, and hopefully this one is going to be a really good time. I also have a couple middle grade graphic novels, which are my personal favorite. I think they're just so fun and super cute, and they usually have a pretty good lesson by the end of the story. The first one that I have to read is The OK Witch and the Hungry Shadow. This is the second one in the series. I read the first one last year and it was so adorable and so cute. I think I even gave it 5 stars. So if you have not picked this series up by Emma Steinkeller, you should absolutely add it to your fall TBR. Moth is starting to settle into her newfound witch heritage and powers, but life at school continues to be rough. Even her best friend Charlie doesn't entirely understand what it's like for her to always be the one who gets mocked. And things only get worse when Moth's mom starts dating one of the dorkiest teachers in the school. Then Moth gets hold of a mysterious charm that can unleash another version of herself, one who is confident, cool, and extremely popular. What could possibly go wrong? So it sounds like she has a doppelganger in this story, which I did not realize, but I just love the fun magical elements Emma puts into her stories, and the cat as well is my favorite part. He is seriously so funny. I also have Seraphina and the Black Cloak, which I never read the original series, but when I saw this come out as a graphic novel and I saw how spooky it looked, I knew I had to get this for spooky season. This also takes place at the Biltmore Estate, which is actually only about an hour away from me, and I've been there before. I love how gorgeous and stunning the architecture is, so I love that I'm going to be able to really visualize what's going on in this story. I know nothing about it other than that. Those few things definitely are what made me pick this one up, and maybe if I love the graphic novel, that will finally motivate me to pick up the actual books. I also have Hooky, which I got 2 or 3 years ago. The second, and I think even the third one is out at this point in print. This is a webcomic that was finally printed, but the artwork is so cute. It's about 2 twin siblings, and they are witches. I think they go to this academy of some sort. They take classes. There's a bunch of hijinks. There's a bunch of really cute creatures just from the back, and I just know this is going to be a really fun time. Like, it just looks perfect for the season, so I definitely have high hopes for this one. Alright friends, that is it for my October reading list. I tried to pick the spookiest books I had, whether it was fantasy or horror, or ones that just really stuck out to me as perfect to read during Halloween. I always feel like I have to be a little bit more calculated with my October reading and plan it out a little bit more thoroughly because there's just so many great books to read. If you're watching this video and you've made it this far, definitely leave me some type of pumpkin emoji or just something that has to do with fall or spooky season to let me know that you are here. Also, let me know if you are planning to read any of these books. Let me know if any of them are on your personal spooky TBR. But thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch this. I love you guys so much. Thank you for supporting my channel, and I will see you in my next fall video.